The other day, I decided to take a drive with my girlfriend, an antique lover, to visit antique and recycle stores. I also like second-hand books and clothes, and I used to look for bargains a lot. We were happily cruising the stores because, although we were buying different things, the stores selling such things were the same. Once again, we were able to buy a few bargains from each other. As I drove away, still excited, I noticed one store I didn't recognize. I asked her, "Was there an antique store here?" We both thought it must be a street we often pass by, but I didn't recognize the store. She tilted her head too, but we entered the antique store without thinking much about it. The interior was a typical antique shop. It seemed to be mainly used books and did not have much furniture or second-hand clothing. The used books in that antique store were all written in a script I have never seen before, and I am not sure of their value. I figured it was an antique store with no good stuff, so I was about to say, "Let's get out of here," when she spotted something. She exclaimed suddenly, "Oh!" I ran up to her and found her standing in front of a bookshelf filled with dolls and figurines that I didn't understand. I was curious about it and asked, "Did you find any bargains?" "This is great," she said. She picked up the icosahedral figurine, which was pushed into the bottom of the basket case, among the stuffed animals and other figurines. Looking back, I wonder why she could see what was at the bottom of the first basket case and should not have been visible from the outside. The mysterious events may have already begun here. I wasn't sure, so I said, "What's this? Something valuable?" I asked. She said, "No, I've never seen it, but I might buy this ornament," she said with a twinkle in her eye. I'm not sure of its value, but it certainly had an indescribable calming color. I figured it might not be bad as an object. I said, "Why don't you buy it if it's cheap?" We took the icosahedron to the cashier. There was a mummy-like old man sitting at the cash register reading an old book written in an incomprehensible script. We asked the old man, "Excuse me, how much is this?" The old man raised his eyes from the old book. For a moment I thought the expression on his face when he saw the icosahedron contained some ungainly malice. But then I thought it was just my imagination. The old man thought for a moment, then said, "Can I wait here for a moment?" and went into the back room. After a while, the old man brought a piece of yellowed paper. "It's a toy called a RINFONE. This manual has all the details." The old man said so and unfolded a yellowed and dirty paper. It seemed to be very old. On the paper was a picture of the icosahedron with the word RINFONE written on it, and a drawing of how it transformed in order of a bear, hawk, fish, and so on. This paper was also written in a language I did not know. The old man said it was written in a language that no one uses anymore. The old man said, "As this manual says, this RINFONE can transform into various animals. First, wrap your hand around the RINFONE and then stroke it around," he said. She did as she was told, wrapping her hands around the RINFONE and stroking it. Then there was a click, and one of the faces of the icosahedron was raised. She said, "Wow, wow." She was amazed. "Try turning that protrusion or picking it up." She did as the old man told her to do, and now another one side caved in. "Wow, it's like a puzzle. Why don't you try it?" She was as excited as a child and recommended it to me. It is very difficult to explain in words how it works, but I thought it was a very good puzzle. I have no idea how it works. This RINFONE is said to transform into various animals such as bears, eagles, and fish by pushing or turning any part of the icosahedron. She was very interested in the RINFONE. I thought it was a really great toy too. So what's the price? She said fearfully. It's an old one, but we forgot we even had it. How about a special price of $100? If we put it on the internet, I think people who like it would buy it for 10 times that. The old man explained fluently. She was a good haggler. In the end, she reduced the price to $65, and we left the store with a happy face. The next day was Monday, so we had dinner together at a restaurant and we both went home right away. Monday, I arrived home after work and she called me. It's great, RINFONE. It keeps taking on the shape of an animal. I can't stop thinking about it, even while I'm working. It's more fun than a boring video game, she said, one-sidedly excited. After hanging up, I got an email. Attached to the email were several images which showed her holding a RINFONE and what looked like a bear head sticking out of the RINFONE and 2 legs. I was impressed with how well it was done, sent an email with my impressions, and eventually went to bed that day. The next day, as I was driving home from work, she texted me. Seriously, it's interesting. I was up all night yesterday tinkering with RINFONE, and finally got a bear. Come, check it out. She wrote an email with a typo. I read the email and chuckled but turned the course of my car towards the house. Hey, you said you pulled an all-nighter. Did you go to work? I asked her as soon as we arrived at her house. I went, she said, but it made me sick because I drank too much coffee. She answered with a sleep-deprived expression on her face. On the table was a RINFONE in the shape of a bear with 4 legs and a slightly raised neck. When I saw that, I told her my sincere impression. That's great. Isn't it great? This one I'm really into. The bear is supposed to be the next one to go from this bear to a hawk. I thought I'd do it as soon as possible, she said excitedly. Hey, don't stay up all night or something. Why don't you just do it tomorrow? I said, trying to quiet her down. She looked a little tired and replied, that too, I suppose. I didn't touch RINFONE again that day. We ate a simple home-cooked meal together and did a skinship that only lovers do and left that day. By the way, I forgot to mention that RINFONE is roughly the size of a softball. Wednesday. On my way home from work, this time I texted her. Did you sleep okay? I texted. I got a decent night's sleep last night. I'm going home now, looking forward to the rest of the day, was her immediate reply. Then, around 11 p.m, as I was crazy on TV, I got a text from her. The hawk is complete. It's so realistic. Whoever built this might be genius, the email said. The attached data contained an image of a RINFONE in the form of an eagle with its wings spread. Even to me, an amateur, I see it was awesome. There was a hawk there that looked like it was about to flap its wings at any moment. Of course, it is a toy, and to some extent it is uneven. Still, it was well made. I'm impressed. All that's left is fish. But don't get too carried away and build slowly. I replied to the email and eventually fell asleep. Thursday night, as I left the bath, my cell phone rang. It was her. Did you call me earlier? She asked. No, what's wrong? I replied. I've been getting calls every 30 seconds or so for the past 5 minutes. When I press the call button, I hear something like the buzz of busy streets, like a lot of people talking, and then it hangs up. I don't know the number, and it's weird, she said. Her voice was frightened. Should I go to your house? I asked, concerned. She hung up the phone, saying, No, I'm going to turn off the phone and go to bed today. Friday. I was curious about the strange phone call too, so I called her and I decided to go to her house. The RINFONE was almost in the shape of a fish, and it looked like it was ready to be finished when the dorsal and the tail fins were added. You said you got another work phone call at lunchtime? I asked her. She said, Yeah, I was eating bread at lunchtime when my cell phone rang, and when I pressed the call, I heard a man and a woman cursing, and then it hung up. She explained anxiously. I wonder if it's a bit of lie or a prank. Let's call the phone company, I suggested. She replied, well, let's do that. After that, I was talking with her about how RINFONE is a really awesome toy, and I was fiddling around to finish the fish, but I couldn't quite figure out how to get the tail and dorsal fins out. On this day, we were also enthusiastic about RINFONE. Eventually, I started to get sleepy, and since the next day was Saturday, I decided to stay at her place, having brought a change of clothes with me. I had a nasty dream. Many naked men and women crawled up from the dark valley floor. I desperately climbed the cliff to escape. I am almost there, almost at the top. I'll be saved. Just as I put my hand on the top, the woman caught my foot. Take me with you. I woke up in a sweat. It was only a little after 5 a.m. I couldn't seem to sleep again, so I lay on the futon in a daze until she woke up. Saturday, we called a phone company, but they could not find the calls. Then, as the conversation went on, we decided to have a fortune-telling session for a change. There is a self-proclaimed beautiful fortune teller in the city who is famous for her accuracy. The self-proclaimed beauty fortune teller seems to be an oddball and can even tell the fortunes of the dead. However, it needed an appointment, and when I called, I was lucky enough to get an appointment for the following Sunday. We did some random shopping that day and stayed out. Sunday, I arrived at a house of a self-proclaimed beautiful fortune teller in the early afternoon. I pressed the chime. Who is it? Came a young woman's voice from the chime. I have an appointment, I replied. Go ahead, the young woman said. When we opened the front door, we saw a cat in the hallway. When it saw us, it was very threatening and ran away to the back. When we proceeded down the hallway, we found what appeared to be a self-proclaimed beautiful fortune teller in a Western-style room. She was not a beautiful woman, but rather a woman with a baby face. The moment we walked in, all at once. After a frightening voice threat, the cat fled behind the fortune teller. I felt like quicksand. I looked at her troubled face. Excuse me, sir, the fortune teller said. Does she need to leave? It was so bad treatment, so I asked, why? I have a cat to protect me from bad things. The cat is telling the fortunes and picking out the good ones and the bad ones. This is the first time I've ever had such a reaction. The fortune teller replied. I had an idea. The strange phone calls to her and the nightmares I had. I told the fortune teller everything. Hearing this, the fortune teller replied, Behind her, I see what looks like an animal object. Throw it away now. She reluctantly replied. Why? I asked the fortune teller. She turned away. Please leave. I don't want to say or see anymore. Her face is turning pale too. I stick to the fortune teller to ask about this. What is it? Is it cursed or something? The kind of thing often found in antiques? I kept asking over and over again until the fortune teller answered. Then the fortune teller suddenly stood up. That is a condensed, minuscule-sized hell. It is the gates of hell. Throw it away. Go home. The fortune teller shouted angrily. I flinch and ask fearfully, How much is that fortune-telling fee? Get the hell out of here. The fortune teller yells. The face of the exclaiming fortune teller at this point was most frightening. When we returned to the house that day, we immediately wrapped the RINFONE and the yellowed instruction manual in the newspaper, wrapped it around with duct tape and threw it in the dumpster. RINFONE was then picked up by a garbage truck. Since then, no other strange incidents have occurred. A few weeks later, when I went to her house, she also, a lover of anagrams, took a piece of paper and a pen and began to say, I know the spelling of RINFONE might be a coincidence or maybe a complication, but if you rearrange it, it could also be read Inferno. Ha ha ha, no way, I replied. She says with a pale face. Fish, what the hell would have happened if I had finished it? Ha ha ha. All I could do was laugh dryly. I unconsciously prayed that RINFONE was being disposed of at the landfill and that there was no second one.